Hello and welcome. We have a very special show today. We are going to talk about India's one of the greatest war heroes, Muhammad Usman, and two very seasoned journalists have come out with a biography while making the book very contemporary in the current ongoing socio-political context. I'm joined by Mr. Zia Salam. He is a senior journalist and a co-author of the book The Lion of Nowshera. And the co-author, Mr. Anand Mishra, is also joining me. Welcome, both of you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Manish.
To begin with, India-Pakistan conflict is quite recurrent. Every 4 or 5 years or a decade, we see an India-Pakistan conflict. So, is that a backdrop that you wrote the book?
Not quite actually speaking. We did not think of it as an Indo-Pak book or any such thing. We picked up this project as a tribute to the martyr. We understood that there was very little that was written about Usman anywhere in English at least, and most likely in other languages also. There was an envelope of ignorance when it came to Brigadier Usman. So we thought, why not try our bit to lift the mystery around him and present the hero to the next generation the way he deserves to be presented.
Mr. Anand Mishra, you are a political journalist. Let me introduce also Mr. Zia is with the Hindu group, and Mr. Anand Mishra is a political editor of the Frontline magazine. Mr. Anand Mishra, we know that from the history of India's partition that a lot of Muslims from Punjab and Bengal chose to go away from India, but many in Uttar Pradesh and elsewhere chose to stay. Why did they stay, and what is the story of Brigadier in this?
Manish, that's why I'm saying that the relevance of the book is that it takes us beyond this binary of Hindu-Muslim story of partition. So it's not that all the Muslims of the country went to Pakistan. It's not that kind of scenario, and especially in Hindi belt where this hate Muslim politics is being practiced, and we frequently hear of communal riots. The communal cleavage is widening. The fact is that in 1947-48, large number of Muslims in these Hindi belt areas they chose to stay very much because perhaps they had settled there for a long time from the Mughal period, and there was kind of a bonhomie between the two communities that existed. So that's why the Jinnah's idea of two nations theory did not get as much traction here as in those border states which you just described. So the Brigadier Usman's story, in fact, when the publishers first approached us to do a biography on him, we did not know much about him, barring the fact that he had got the moniker of the Lion of Nowshera. He was a brave soldier. He died, and then he is celebrated by the successive governments. So when we started doing research on Brigadier Usman, we are fascinated by his personality, different personal traits in his character. See, here is a man who did not complete his 36 years of services. In 47, the country got partitioned, and here is a man who is getting lucrative offers from Pakistan, like all senior Muslim officers in army and elsewhere, and he decides to say a no to that polarization politics which was at peak at that time, and he stays in India. And see the destiny. The man dies fighting Pakistani forces defending in Indian territory. So that's why we took up the project. And while doing this story, I mean, Brigadier Usman's village is in Azamgarh, the same place, which some have started calling meaning Pakistan some time back. But very little is known about this fact that this same district is also the birthplace of Brigadier Usman, who died for India fighting for Pakistan. So these are the characteristics of the brigadier which inspired us to do this book.
That's very illuminating, Mr. Mishra. Mr. Zia, can you please give us some personal background of Brigadier Usman? Azamgarh is known also for literary giants, poets, authors, And his father was a police officer in British India. His brother was also a brigadier in Indian Army, and one brother is a journalist. So, can you please throw
Well,
some light on his family and personal background?
Brigadier Usman's father, as you rightly pointed out, was in the police, and he, like most father, wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. But Brigadier Usman had other things on his mind. Right from the beginning, he had proved his bravery much before anybody else by jumping into a well to rescue a little boy. Usman himself was only 12 at that time, while everybody else was just watching and wondering how to rescue the boy. Here was this young guy who jumped into the well and saved a little boy's life. But as far as his family is concerned, it was a typical middle or upper middle class family of Awadh of those days, where the father of the family called the shots in everything. When the father arrived in a buggy at his home, the entire family went quiet out of respect for him. When the family ate together, they made sure the father was at the head of the table and everybody kept a respectful silence while the meal was being had. And the sons appeared in front of the father with a cap on. So with that kind of upbringing, he went to Sandhurst and then finally to the Indian Army. And as Anand just pointed out, Brigadier Usman not only chose India over Pakistan, he also regarded India to be his life and blood, as he proved in Jhangar and Naushera. We have mentioned at one place in the book that the Qabails from Pakistan had taken shelter in a mosque while they were attacking the Indian forces. Brigadier Usman did not think twice before attacking these very Qabails inside a mosque. For him, the mosque ceased to be pure when it was used for impure purposes. If you see something similar happening today, probably there'll be hue and cry. But Brigadier Usman was very clear that not only does he have to kill those Kabayas from there, but he also has to restore mosque to its sanctity. He was made of that kind of stuff. And we have also mentioned the fact that most of the soldiers in his brigade were non-Muslims. So Brigadier Usman also started fasting with them on Tuesdays, and he turned a vegetarian as well. Such was his dedication to his brigade, to his nation. And it was just unfortunate that he passed away 12 days shy of his 36th birthday, because there are many who believe he would have risen to be the chief of the army staff in India, as he was 3 days senior to Sam Malik Shah.
Indeed, quite illuminating. In fact, you have written in the book that he could have possibly been India's first Muslim army chief. Mr. Misra, from you, we would like you please throw a bit more light that he was from the Baloch regiment in pre-partition India, and he did not choose to go to Pakistan, though Muhammad Ali Jinnah made an offer and also great lucrative promises to him. Still, he stayed back with India, and many others also stayed. We should not forget that many political leaders who were with the Congress chose to stay in India, and they rose to prominent places. What was his military legacy, Mr. Mishra?
See, he was from the last batch of Sandhurst, so he is a foreign educated youth, Indian youth. He has not crossed the prime of youth, and you see, in the course of writing this book, we also came about one another personality, Mr. E. Habibullah, who is the father of Mr. Wajahat Habibullah. So we were talking to Mr. Wajahat Habibullah, and one thing which he told us was really striking. He said that when his father and Mr. Brigadier Usman, both of them decided to not only stay on in India, but to continue to serve in the army, which was a difficult proposition at that time. So both of them went to Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister, requested him that they should be allowed to serve in the army and stay in India, which the sagacious Prime Minister at that time agreed to do despite opposition from some quarters. So so he what he told us that as far as his interaction with his father, Mr. E. Habibullah, was concerned, he could never feel that his father felt that he's doing something special or he's doing something extraordinary by staying in India and continuing to serve in Indian Army. Perhaps they were men of a different generation, because when we start to look at some past event and some past personalities from the prism of present, we miss a lot of things. So what he told us that it came very natural to him as well as Brigadier Usman to stay in India. So that is where we were fascinated by these people, that the overriding polarizing atmosphere in their vicinity did not affect them at all. For them, they were Indians and they were staying in India despite partition came as a natural emotion to them. It's not that it's a labored kind of a conclusion that they arrived at, and they took into stride all the pros and cons, and they then chose to stay in India. So the existence of Brigadier Usman as well as Mr. Habibullah and many more personalities like him, these are not the only two. Uh, Proves that even in the highly pitched communal atmosphere of post-partition days or pre-partition months, there were individuals who were not comfortable with this two-nation theory, not only among Hindus but also among Muslims, and they were fighting their battle from their private spaces. There were a large number of Muslims who stayed in India and served in different key establishments, and a trend which continues till date. So that's why I'm saying that Brigadier Usman's story tells you to explore the story of partition beyond this Hindu-Muslim binary.
Can I
Mr.
comment
Zia,
on that?
yeah,
Can I comment
please,
on that? Adding to
please.
what Anand just said, see, even the father of our former Vice President Hamid Ansari, Abdul Aziz Ansari, he was also given a similar offer by Jinnah. And we also have in possession a letter from Jinnah wherein he was asked to shift to Pakistan and assured of the highest possible position in his particular field. But Abdul Aziz Saab not only declined, but he also shifted his family from Shimla to Delhi and then from Delhi to Yusufpur finally. And when we are talking of Jinnah or Pakistan extending any offers to Indians, Indian Muslims, we must not forget the role played by Jamiyat Ulema Hind. It is a role which is not often talked about in our history books or even in the media. There was this Muslim League which stood for Pakistan, a separate state from Muslims. That was the idea behind the formation of the Muslim League. And then there was this Jamiyat Ulema Hind, which always stood for a united India. In fact, even today, if you want to join Jamiyat Ulema Hind, they don't ask you to pledge on their constitution. They ask you to pledge on the constitution of India with equal opportunity and respect for all religions. Maybe without joining Jamiyat, Brigadier Usman had a similar kind of mindset, and all those officers and even the Jawans who chose to stay in India were wedded to the principles of our constitution even before the constitution was formally promulgated.
Excellent. I was coming back to Mr. Zia after Mr. Misla's eliminating remarks. I wish to ask you, because you have mentioned in the book that you already said here in the discussion also that he fasted on Tuesday. But his concern was that the hungry people should get food, and by fasting, the food grains may be saved. At the same time, he donated his salary for education of downtrodden. So, quite a human person behind Brigadier Usman. Can you please illuminate us about his human side of the story?
See, Manish's human side begins from his childhood. As Zia mentioned, this story that somebody has fallen in a well,
Oh,
and in his
yes.
childhood he jumped into it, the well to save it. So I'll just quote a poem of Matthew Sharan Gupta, which all of us have read in our school days. So, what is nationalism all about? How can you be nationalist? So, it starts with the poem, जो भराव नहीं है भावों से, बहती जिसमें रसधार नहीं, वो हृदय नहीं पत्थर है जिसमें स्वदेश का प्यार नहीं. So this love for nation comes in the last section. The first two sections are one who is not filled with emotions, one in whose there is no tenderness. So Mr. Brigadier Usman was a nationalist in true sense, following these principles. He had a tender heart. Uh, in Sanskrit, you know, there is a phrase कुसुमादपि मृदु एंड वज्रादपि कठोरानी, मतलब फूल की तरह सॉफ्ट और वज्र जो एक हमारे यहाँ मैथोलॉजिकल वेपन है उसकी तरह हार्ड. तो ब्रिगेडियर उस्मान की पर्सनालिटी में ये दोनों चीजें दिखती हैं कि व्हेन ही सीज a person having fallen into the well, he jumps into it to save his life without caring for his life. When he sees many people going hungry without food, then he advised his brigade to go on fast on a day so that the food can be saved and distributed among the needy. When he sees students lacking educational facilities and tools to study, then he starts donating a substantial part of his salary for their education. And at the same time, the same Brigadier Usman with a tender heart, when he sees a Pakistani Kabaili attacking Indian territory, he fights them ferociously. He invokes his brigade to lay down their life and sacrifice their life to protect the territory of India, and he creates such a psychosis of fear among the Pakistani forces at that time that they go and declare an award of 50,000 rupees on his head, which was a big sum at that time. So there's a single man who was creating a scare in the enemy camp at that time. You see this
Mr. Zia, yeah,
combination
yeah, please
of
come.
virtues in Brigadier Usman.
Sir,
Okay,
we must
Mr.
not forget the significance of fasting on Tuesday, because
Yes.
in the Islamic tradition, any voluntary fast has to be undertaken on Monday or Thursday. That was the tradition of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But here, Brigadier Usman chose to fast on Tuesdays to be one to promote a sense of harmony within his own brigade, because most of the soldiers were Hindus in his brigade, and he chose to adopt their way of life while he was in the forces. So that is very important, and equally important, as Anand just said, was, and you also pointed out, the fact that there was not enough to eat for people around. Those were difficult times. Those were economically challenging times. At the same time, there was this danger to life and limb. So at that time, seeking to unite the soldiers within the army and to feel for the civilians was extraordinary. Having said that, Brigadier Usman was also one brigadier who started the command of Jai Hind within his brigade. He said nobody will greet each other with Namaste or Assalamu alaikum. We will all adopt the greeting of Jai Hind. So he deserves a lot of credit for these innovative measures which have often gone underappreciated.
Mr. Zia, let me tell to the benefit of our audience that he was in Dogra Regiment when he started the fast on Tuesday, though he was earlier in the Baloch Regiment, which went to Pakistan. Right now, we will. I would ask both of you to comment on the significance of Brigadier Usman in saving Kashmir for India. And Jammu and Kashmir is what today with India is because of largely heroics of Brigadier Usman. And what was the impact that saved India the crucial territory of Kashmir? Mr. Zia, you can go ahead, and then Mr. Misra.
See, as I've often said, without Brigadier Usman, probably India would not have been run from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. As you said at the beginning of this show, we have had this festering conflict with Pakistan, and there is an inevitable showdown with Pakistan every few years. The fact that we could protect our territory in Kashmir in 1947-48 was solely due to Brigadier Usman. If the Indian forces had surrendered to Pakistan at that particular time, God forbid, the map of India would have been very different. Having said that, if Brigadier Usman was not martyred in July 1948, and the Indian forces had gone on as they probably planned to do at that time, then Muzaffarabad and the Pakistan occupied Kashmir would have been very much a part of India.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Mishra, you have anything to
yeah,
add?
I'll just add. Just have had, I think, spoken about all this territory thing. I'll just add this one incident just to show how Brigadier Usman, how seriously Brigadier Usman took this fight against Pakistan, and how determined he was to capture back the territory which Pakistan had taken from India. By the end of 1947, by the December, large tracts of Indian territory in Jangar had come into the occupation of Pakistan. And here, this all the December is a cold winter, and you all know the terrain of Jammu and Kashmir, which becomes bitterly cold at that time. Brigadier Usman decides that he will not sleep on the cot
Yes.
till he recaptures that territory, and he sleeps on the ground, and it takes him a few months, and Jhangar is recaptured, and then only the brigadier goes on his bed to sleep. So that was his commitment to take back the Indian territory which was captured by Pakistan. You see, during these war times there are multiple small scale escalations, and there is much of back and forth. Indian army captures one hillock, one high point, then they withdraw, and then once they withdraw, again the Pakistani Kabilis backed by Pakistani army comes and recaptures that territory. So it's finally settled with the war of Naushera and then Jangar in 1948, March or April, months before Brigadier Usman is martyred in the Pakistani shell attack. So here was an Indian military officer determined to take back every inch that is captured by the Pakistan, which was by the enemy country.
Mr. Zia, can you please also tell us about the current context? Because both of you have brought the book at this point of time. There must have been a context, and that you have mentioned in the book also that the prevailing socio-political atmosphere probably provoked you, both of you, to write the book to raise a kind of a lamppost for the people that India is a composite culture, and the polarizing stream currently doesn't necessarily reflect the true ethos of India. Mr. Zia.
See, the idea behind this was, yes, to throw the spotlight on Brigadier Usman, but also to give the new generation a hero to identify with, a hero to
Yes.
aspire for. Because, as you rightly pointed out, in today's polarization, and there are certain heroes who are being erased from our history books. Like of late, we have seen the attempts to diminish the stature of Akbar, and Indian Muslims are constantly reminded of the actions of Aurangzeb. Unfortunate that not just Indian Muslims but the larger Indian citizens are not reminded of the sacrifice of Brigadier Usman. Any nation, any society, any community needs to choose its heroes with a lot of care. Unfortunately, the youngsters for many generations now, for no fault of theirs, have been identifying with a Shah Rukh Khan here, a Salman Khan there, or an Amitabh Bachchan or Mahendra Singh Dhoni there. Why don't our youngsters regard Brigadier Usman to be their role model? This was one of the ideas which drove us to do this book. And after this book came out, the government of India has taken a very laudable initiative of inserting a couple of paragraphs about Brigadier Usman in the 8th class syllabus of NCRT books for youngsters who choose to study in the Hindi or Urdu medium. So at least these youngsters will be able to know what was Brigadier Usman's sacrifice and what was he made of.
Mr. Misra, we would hope that the story of Brigadier Usman is available at least in class 8, in all languages. So why confine only to Hindi and Urdu? But still, the addition is welcome. Mr. Mishra, Mr. Zia talked about Bollywood stars as possible role models for the people, or as a reference points. Why didn't the Bollywood ever make a film on Brigadier Usman, or no television series on him, or why did the popular narrative miss out on him, such a great war hero of India?
Manish, I will confine my answer to just few points, and then Zia will take over because he has done a great research on this chapter, so he will be give you better on that. The possibly one possible reason which we came across is that there are very little facts known about Brigadier Osman, because when we took up this project, it's almost 8 decades since he was martyred. He was not married. His one brother was not married, and his only brother who had a family, his family member had shifted out of India to European country. So, in while researching for the book, we had this challenge. First, of finding out new facts about Brigadier Usman, and secondly, also ruling out the contradictions, because we were getting different versions of one incident from different accounts. So possibly doing a cohesive story on Brigadier Usman was too tough a challenge for any filmmaker. They would have preferred to invest their energy in some more money, easily money making exercise. Yes, I will throw some more light on that.
Yes.
So there are a couple of factors. One, as Anand Saab said, is the research around Brigadier Usman. There's very little information available in public domain. Whatever is there is very sketchy. So many filmmakers have announced their projects but not progressed further, largely because of this. I will just take you back to Sanjay Khan, who announced his film on Brigadier Usman with Zayed Khan around 6 years ago. He hasn't progressed with the project for entirely similar reasons. Same with Vikas Bahal, whose film was announced a little before Sanjay's film, but it too is languishing still because they are still researching. The fact of the matter is, when we started working on this book, we didn't actually understand the steep odds we were faced with. Brigadier Usman had passed away in 1948. He was single, so there was no question of his wife or his children being able to narrate anything. His parents had predeceased him. He had a younger brother, which you pointed out, Subhan, who was a journalist, but he too had passed away in 1984. His other younger brother, Ghufran, had passed away in 1980. Subhan had stayed single. Only Ghufran was the one who had got married among the three brothers, and his family had shifted. People said initially to the UK, some said Canada, some said US. Finally, when we were able to speak to the family, we realized that they have been in the US for many years now, though they initially went to Canada. So there are all those difficulties in getting authentic information about the family. The other was the absence of romantic interest in Brigadier Usman's life. There was a film announced in 1987 and the shooting started with Vinod Khanna and Sridevi. Sridevi left the film after 4 reels had been shot, realizing she'll have a very small role as Brigadier Usman did not have any romantic interest. And unfortunately, our Hindi filmmakers at that time, much to a lesser extent today, were tied up to the idea of a chivalrous hero and a delicate, white skinned dancing doll as a heroine. So Brigadier Usman did not fit in into that stereotype.
Excellent. Quite an interesting throwback on why the Bollywood misses out on such great stories. To round up the discussion, Mr. Mishra and Mr. Zia, we will take the top question about the current prevailing situation where nationalism is frequently asked. Anybody would give a label, descriptions to the people. It's easy, and the social media and the videos somehow define the memories and world views of the people. So, how do we tackle the situation where anybody, not just Muslims, anybody, if they are questioned on nationalism, how do we respond to, and how the nation should deal with the crisis?
So nationalism is independent of religion. It is not the monopoly of any section, any religion, any caste, etc. Having said that, being patriotic is not the same, loving your country is not the same as loving your government. Is the duty of a patriotic person, patriotic Indian, to stand up for India, at the same time ask questions of the government of India. Because when the government works well, it is also working for the country, for our nation. But if it doesn't work well, if it indulges in politics of polarization or corruption, or kind of fiddles with the constitution of the land, then it is a duty of every Indian to ask tough questions of the government of the day. The governments come and go. India stays. India is superior to any individual, any government.
Mr. Mishra.
Manish, see, this political nationalism and nationalism are two different concepts. I am just reminded of Rama Iqbal's one couplet. जिस पत्थर की मूर्तों में समझा है तू खुदा है, खाके वतन का मुझको हर जर्रा देवता है. So this kind of communal amity, this kind of harmony we had seen in India, and I come from a small town, so and I have not seen that kind of polarization there. So I still believe that India, which is predominantly rural, where 76% population depends on agriculture, and large number of people still live in villages, and where they are interdependent on each other, this kind of political polarization will not continue for long. Because elections are held only once in 5 years. But what after those 5 or 10 days? Ultimately, people will have to depend on each other. They have to coexist. So there are a lot of noise around it. But I believe that still the Indian society is very resilient, and the communities will continue to live together. There will be persons from both communities, or rather all communities, who will stand up against these voices of rabid communalism.
In fact, I would like to tell both of you that even in the books, even in writing books, this narrative building outreach has begun. And in this backdrop, the Raisina Hills strongly recommend the audience that they should read the book, The Lion of the Naushera, because we have to celebrate our war heroes, and we have to select our true icons. Mr. Zia and Mr. Misra, thank you so much for talking to the Raisina Hills.
Thank you,
Manish.
Maheshji, for choosing to throw the light on Brigadier Usman and the Lion of Naushera. All the credit is Brigadier Usman's, and any deficiency, any shortcoming is mine or Anand's.
Thank you.